Hello and welcome to Budget with Business Standard. I am Ruchika Chitravanshi. Over the past few days, we have been bringing you stories across various sectors and what the budget could have in store for them. In today's episode, we are going to focus on what has been called the four pillars of the budget by Prime Minister, by Finance Minister, as well as recently by President. Now, what are these four pillars? Youth, farmer, poor, and women. Let us start with the youth. But before that, let me introduce you to our very special guests, Ms. Nivedita Mukherjee, our executive editor, and Mr. Ashok Kumar Bhattacharya, our editorial director. Nivedita, let me start with you. What can the budget do for the youth, given the fact that joblessness is a very big problem? It has come up in this election as well. And this is something in our edition today also. We have highlighted that the severe shortage of skilled, unskilled workers is threatening to pull the emergency brakes on India's industrial engine. So this is a big challenge. What can the budget do to address this?
Yeah, Ruchika, thanks for that question. And yes, labor blues and labor pains, like we've said in our headline, that's a big issue. And before getting into the answer to that question, I did a quick word cloud of the finance minister's speech in February. And she mentioned youth 11 times, women 9 times, farmers 10 times, poor thrice, and poverty thrice. So that's the thing. So youth 11 times. So I expect, the budget to make some concrete announcements to help the youth, especially from the standpoint of giving them employment. So if you look at the unemployment rate right now, the CMIE data suggests 8.1% as of April, up from 7.4% in March. So that is something that is, bothering everyone. So what can the government do? Recently I was speaking to a senior official in the Ministry of Electronics and IT, MIT as we know it by. And he was saying that, this collaboration between the academia and industry, that has to go up, and the initiative has started. But in the budget, I think there will be some focus on that. In fact, in the interim budget also, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman had mentioned it, but probably she will take it forward this time, announcing some concrete steps. So that is one.
One of the suggestions that has come to FM is increasing PLI to labor-intensive sectors so that there are more jobs. AKB, can you add any?
Sure. I think what Nivedita said is absolutely right. The focus on youth will be a big idea that we will see in the budget. But going forward, what I would say is this, that something that we might see in this budget on youth and youth employment is how the budget deals with the what I would call a controversial scheme on Agnipath, which is all about youth employment into the army. Now that had become a big electoral issue also in states like Rajasthan, states like Haryana, states like Himachal Pradesh, where a large number of young people were looking for an employment, full-time employment in army, but they were offered only a 4-year employment, and then the hope that the private sector will absorb them. Now, the budget will be keenly awaited on what is done to the Agnipath scheme. Is there any tweaking there or not?
What is the sense you're getting, sir?
My sense is that there will be a mention of Agnipath scheme in the budget. There will be an assurance that the government is conscious of the Agnipath scheme's concerns, but at the same time, because of the burden that any reversal on the Agnipath scheme would entail for the government, nothing substantial may be done. And my second point, I would say, is this, that they may be something in response to the industry's worry on how you employ people who are trained and skilled. Business Standard carried a beautiful report on quoting L&T chairman, saying that he needs to hire 45,000 workers, 20,000 of them ordinary workers and 25,000 engineers, but he cannot hire them because they aren't available, they are not employable. So I think the budget must provide some indication of what kind of schemes are being announced and allocations are being made to make Indian youth more skilled in getting jobs in the private sector.
More employable. We're talking about labor force. And if we go by the order in which Nivedita mentioned these issues found mentioned in FM's speech, the next in line is women. Now, a lot has been announced by the Prime Minister and FM in the previous budgets also. Labor force participation and the poor labor force participation for women is also one of the big issues. Overall, what is your sense, Nivedita? Can the budget do towards the women of India?
So, if you look at gender budgeting, in the previous budget, I think there was a phenomenal rise. It was about, the figure was 38.6%, and the figure went up to rupees 3.06 trillion, and that was across 43 ministries. So I think the focus was clear. Now, how the FM carries it forward, we have to watch. But I think Mission Shakti, which I think has a validity till 2025, I think that would get an extension most probably. And in skill development, again, across ministries, whether it's the skill development ministry or any other, I think the focus on women's skilling will be there, so that the workforce participation gets better.
Yeah, there's also the Mahila Saman certificate, which is ending. The scheme is ending on FY25. There is a case for increasing that as well. Any other?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on this issue, you could expect the budget announce sweetness of sort, how you encourage companies to hire women without incurring the so-called costs of hiring a woman. In a sense that why do companies not hire women? Because when you hire a woman, there are certain costs that are not really built into it, and so therefore there's a natural preference that if you hire a woman, there are some costs associated with it.
Are you referring to Foxconn's?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm referring to Foxconn instance. So, will the government come in and step in and say that, like you did it in the COVID time, that the PF, was taken care of by the government? Will something be done to show that this government cares for women? Because after all, electorally, this government said a lot about women.
To make women environment.
Can I ask a
please.
question? AKB, do you think companies can do anything, and maybe government can do something to improve the work-life balance, for women? That would probably, get more women into the workforce.
I think it's a very important issue that you have raised. It is not just a financial accommodation by making sure that the simple issue that comes up is that when a woman is employed, a married woman is employed, the most companies worry about what happens when the woman has a child. Now, the 6 months.
This government got that.
This government got that. Now, so if you want to make an employer's choice gender neutral, then there has to be some incentives to make sure that this works. So maybe the budget with a woman finance minister, who knows?
Who knows? The next on our agenda is the poor. Now, AKB in the interim budget, and Business Standard carried this report because we always compare the revised estimate to the budget estimates. And it showed that the allocation for the welfare schemes had gone down. And now this is a budget coming after the elections, and there are a lot of lessons that this government has learned. What can it do for poor, especially in context of now poverty declining, and we are targeting the extreme poverty much more, or we need to?
My sense is that to judge what the government will do by the poverty numbers is probably a misleading way of looking at things. Because if you look at the government's plan to offer free food grain, to 810 million people in this country at a time when the poverty levels, going by various estimates, is not more than 15% or 12% or 8%. Now, clearly, 810 million people are not poor in this country. So why are they getting free fruit grain? So government probably will not go by the poverty numbers, but government will certainly use this budget to offer more benefits to a larger section of people. For example, there is this talk about which is being discussed about how do you make sure that the urban poor they get taken care of. Can there be some sort of an allocation, some sort of a scheme for the urban poor? Even some political parties had also talked about providing a scheme of compensation or a welfare scheme for the urban poor. You have something for the rural poor, but how about talking about urban poor? Now, this could well be a budget offering.
Yes, absolutely. Which is now quite linked to the farmers' issues as well. What do you think can the budget do for farmers? We've seen the kind of demands that have come to increase PM Kisan, etc. Do you think there is scope?
Well, I think it is only logical that the PM Kisan amount of 6,000 rupees should be raised, and maybe some exclusion criteria can be introduced. But the amount of 6,000, clearly, if you look at the inflation rate since 2019, 6,000 rupees is clearly been an inflation impacted. So you need to raise it to maybe 9,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. Now this has got a fiscal impact. So at the end of the day, Mrs. Sitaraman has to see that whether it is fiscal consolidation first or spending more money on these schemes.
As you've said in the previous episodes also, she has enough room. But Nivedita, what do you think about this consumption challenge that we're facing? And we need to push demand. What can be done to push rural demand?
I think, this budget will have to look at a comprehensive strategy on how to do things and, driving consumption, rural consumption or urban consumption. That is part of that strategy, whether it's for the poor, whether it's for the women, for farmers. I think broader strategy, rather than, looking at piecemeal schemes, and I think this budget will do something towards that.
We have time for one last question, AKB. BJP manifesto talked about more fiscal autonomy to the panchayats. How will that impact the agriculture sector, the farming community?
You are right. The farmers stay in villages, and they come under the third tier of governance. And there is no denying that the third tier of governance need urgent reforms. Not just the fiscal autonomy issue, but even otherwise, administratively, they need to be made more functional, made more effective. So I would imagine, given the fact that the BJP's election manifesto was to provide more fiscal autonomy to the third tier of governance, I would imagine the budget will make some reference to this and announce a kind of a roadmap on what it needs to do to improve fiscal autonomy for Panchayati Raj institutions.
All right.
Can I just add one thing? I think we did not talk about providing homes. I think homes will find a prominent place in this budget for all these segments that we are talking about.
Roti kapda makan, as we say it. Lot of important indications coming through this chat. We hope you got good insights, and we will keep coming back to you with more over the next few days. Thank you so much for watching.